Okay, welcome to SWUG. Summer 2022 is upon us. Got a quick little presentation here for you. Tips and tricks for SolidWorks. Let's see. My name's Mark Knowles. I'm a designer with InterLink. I started here as an intern back in 2018. So part of our workflow here at InterLink, we're often working side by side. And usually when I'm working with another SolidWorks user, I might see them do something in their workflow that I hadn't seen before. And oftentimes it's something I think would be really useful. So we bring these up to each other and we started keeping a list of these tips and tricks. And that's kind of where we've drawn the selection here today. We'll go over a couple tools and features that are new that we think are really helpful. But also we're going to go over a couple of little things that might seem obvious to some, but could make a big difference if you weren't aware of these things. So we're kind of going to go from simple to more advanced, and hopefully there'll be a little something in here for everybody. Okay, so this is a really simple one. Right-click to rotate a part. So inside of an assembly, hopefully you're aware that you can click on a part and drag it around, move it around the assembly. But if you right-click on the part, you can rotate or spin that part instead of just moving it around. And believe it or not, I learned this just a few weeks ago, and it makes a huge difference in your workflow, especially in assemblies, to be able to just quickly right-click on a part to give it a spin instead of having to move with triad or do something else. So really simple tip that I picked up that saves me a lot of time. All right, here's the next one. Another one that's pretty straightforward, someone brought to my attention this past couple of weeks. This is grabbing a transparent surface inside of an assembly. So let me pop over to SolidWorks and just show you what this looks like. Really straightforward. If we've got an assembly here, I've got this part transparent. I can click on it over here if there's nothing behind it, but if there's something in the way, or excuse me, something behind the transparent part, SolidWorks is going to want to grab that. So if you hold down Shift, you can grab the transparent surface no matter what's behind it. I use this one all the time. So if anyone out there wasn't aware of this, hopefully that will help you in your assembly work. Pop back over. All right, getting a little more advanced here. I do believe this is a newer feature. I think it was a 2021 edition. So this is something you can use to make all the text inside of a table uppercase. So this would be in the context of a drawing, a SolidWorks drawing, any table that contains text, a bill of materials, revision table, cut list, what have you. Usually as designers, we're going for an all uppercase design aesthetic. So before, you have to go and in all your properties, make sure everything is capitalized. And when you go to make your drawing, if you have a part description somewhere that has some lowercase letters, you got to go back into the part, find that property, etc. So there's a new little button here. This is the text toolbox that pops up when you're working on a table. This is one for bill of materials, and it's a little box down here at the bottom. It says text format, and then a box you can click to make all uppercase. This can save you a lot of time, especially if you have a huge cut list or something. You can just make everything uppercase with a touch of a button, which is a huge help. Right, pop along to another one. Okay, this is a really neat one that I just learned as well. So this has to do with dimensioning a circle, or for that matter, any geometry with an arc, like a slot or something, but we're just going to look at it with circles here. In the context of a drawing, you can, when you're dimensioning to a circle, grab an edge or a point, and then you go dimension to the circle. SolidWorks will automatically take the dimension from the center of that circle. But if you were to hold down the shift key and hover your click over the right or the left side of the circle, it will actually grab the inside or outside of that circle to give you a minimum or a maximum distance. So there's a way to do that in the settings of the dimension, but this is a quick way to do the same thing that we have found helps quite a bit. So I'll show you one in a drawing here. Got a little drawing, got a circular feature going on here. So I'm going to grab a dimension and right, like usually happens, we grab that circle and dimension goes off the center there. So what I'm going to do is dimension here, and then I'm going to hold the shift key. You see, as I hover on the left side, it's grabbing the minimum distance, and off to the right side, it's going to grab the maximum distance. So quick little keyboard trick that can save you a few clicks and get you the exact dimension that you need when you need it. It's a nifty trick there. All right, let me pop back over. Okay. Here's another one that I really like to use. So when we are creating, this is in a sketch, in a part. When we're creating geometry for, typically this would be for a revolved feature, like a, I would use this for a revolve cut or revolve boss. Any feature that's symmetrical like this, you can see where we've drawn the center line. And if we dimension to that center line, this gives us what would be effectively the radius. But if you actually drag the dimension over the center line, it goes to a diameter. So this is a really helpful little feature in the sketch tool. And I'm going to try to show it to you in context so that it makes a little bit more sense here. So I've got a revolve feature on this little sample part here. I'm going to go into the sketch for that feature. Okay, so I've got my center line set up, right? And this is the revolved extrusion in this case. So I'm going to grab my dimension here, come off the edge. So that's the center line. And you can see if I just pop it over, it creates a diameter for me that I can dimension there. Let's do that again over here. This one actually just pulled it automatically. But yeah, if I grab just like this, radius, diameter. So in the past, before I knew this, when I was making sketches like this, I would be creating mirror geometry and either change it to construction lines or what have you. But this nifty trick keeps things simple. You only have to draw one side of your shape and pull diameters automatically. So I find this really helpful. I use this a lot in reverse engineering. If I have a feature that's got 25 unique diameters, I can pull them all really quickly off a center line. Super helpful. All right. I got one left for you. Okay, this one getting a little more advanced here. We just learned about this one somewhat recently as well. So this is varying geometry in a linear pattern. So if you're aware of linear pattern, if you're not aware of linear patterns, they're extremely helpful. SolidWorks gives us circular patterns, linear patterns, etc. In a pattern like this, typically it's just going to repeat a feature or a face on a set increment. And what varying instances allows us to do is to make changes to each instance of the pattern, and we can input the data that we need. So in this little sample picture here, I've got a repeating feature that's getting taller as it repeats through the pattern. So obviously this would be pretty difficult to do. Each one of these would be its own feature if you didn't have access to this tool. So just to kind of show you how this works, again, back to my sample part here. I've got a little hex-shaped boss here, and I want to pattern it out. So I'm going to go into the tool here and show you where to find this. Okay, so instances to vary is a selection you have inside of the pattern tool. Select this, and then it's going to give you options. You're going to select the dimension that you want to change. In this case, I'm changing this one right here, which is the height of the feature. And then I can set the increment. So I've set it to 1/4 inch. So it is going to increase this dimension by 1/4 inch along each instance of the pattern, which is a very neat tool. You can also change, other dimensions here available to change. This would just be the diameter of this shape, or I can change, the space between. Those are all available to vary on a set pattern. So pretty neat little trick. When you run across something like this in your parts, hope you'll remember use the varying instances. Yeah, I know we're going over this kind of quick here, but there's lots of great videos on YouTube. A lot of times with the SolidWorks tool, just being aware that it's in there somewhere is really half the battle. Once you know it can be done, then you can phone a friend or search on the internet. A lot of times SolidWorks help is very helpful as well. So I'm gonna kick it back here. That's all I got for tips and tricks. Hopefully everybody was able to learn a little something. I'm going to throw it back to the room. If anybody remote has questions on these tips or just SolidWorks questions in general, my colleague Bobby is online to answer any of your questions. And we've got Dylan there in the room who would be happy to take questions as well. So I'm going to leave you with that and sign off. So thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your SWUG meeting. Thanks, y'all.